Not every royal scandal made it to the headlines. Some were buried with cash. Behind closed doors, kings, princes, and princesses paid millions to keep secret. A monarch handed over a fortune to silence a former lover, a crown prince who used to pay out to bury an explosive court case, and a princess who quietly signed contracts to protect her reputation. These weren't rumors, they were hush money deals. So which royals paid to erase their scandals? Here are 12 royals who paid hush money to keep their secrets. At number 12, we have King Juan Carlos I of Spain's incident. King Juan Carlos, who reigned from 1975 until his abdication in 2014, has been entangled in several episodes of hush money tied to extramarital affairs. The most serious involved Barbara Ray, television actress with whom he allegedly had a long affair in the 80s. In a 2017 interview, Ray claimed that Juan Carlos's associate offered her roughly $700,000 to buy her silence and to help her pay off a mortgage at the same time and set up a business. Ray stated that the king's confidant deposited $165,000 in a Swiss bank account as part of the arrangement. In exchange, she handed over intimate photographs. She also admitted receiving a television contract at $350,000 in installments, benefits she attributed to the same pact. A broader covert operation known as Operation Persia further illustrates the lengths taken to hide the affair. An investigation by El Pas concluded that from 1994 to 2004, a lot of people paid money to prevent leaked photographs, videos, and audio tapes documenting Juan Carlos's relationship with Ray. Funds were reportedly passed through various channels who purchased the compromising materials and maintained hush agreement. The operation, intended to protect the monarchy during Spain's fragile democratic transition, was not revealed until years later. When details emerged, the scandal added to the series of controversies that ultimately contributed to Juan Carlos's abdication and exile. At number 11, we have Prince Andrew, Duke of York's incident. Prince Andrew's connection to an American financier culminated in a civil lawsuit filed by Virginia Giuffre, accusing him of manhandling. To avoid the court trial in public testimony, Andrew agreed to substantial settlement in February 2022. Contemporary reports estimate that the settlement was more than £12 million, partly financed through Queen Elizabeth II's private estate. Time magazine even noted that the late Queen Elizabeth was expected to contribute around $2.7 million herself, while the bulk of the settlement was believed to come from Andrew's personal funds. Business Insider, citing the Telegraph, reported that the agreement prevented either side from discussing the allegations, and the legal experts speculated the payment could reach around $14 to $16 million. The confidential settlement shielded Andrew from a deposition and eliminated the risk of cross-examination under oath, thereby keeping further details of the relationship with that American financier hidden from the public. Deals sparked a strong public reaction. Many Britons were outraged at the use of private royal funds to extinguish the lawsuit, and Andrew lost his military titles and patronage, part of the fallout. There was a payout to avert a public courtroom fight and the disclosures that came with it. Although he denied wrongdoing, the payment effectively silenced one of the most prominent accusers and kept sensitive information out. Court. Next, we've got King Carl Gustaf of Sweden's incident. Sweden's king faced a scandal in 2010 into 2011 after the publication of a book alleging that he frequented nightclubs and hosted wild parties. According to the French news agency AFP, the king denied the allegations but acknowledged that their friends may have attempted to suppress the story. The report exclaims that his childhood friends of Anders Lettstrom admitted contacting people linked to unruly things to prevent the publications of compromising photographs. Lettstrom later said he acted on his own, yet Swedish media alleged that he offered large sums to buy or destroy the material. Another contemporary source, China Daily, noted that Lettstrom's approached a bad person to help snuff out the scandal, and that the book claimed that the king's relationship with exotic dancers and also at the same time had a secret love affair. While the exact amounts offered were not disclosed, Swedish newspaper reports figures range from $150 large to $300,000. The efforts failed. The book's allegations fueled weeks of headlines and eroded public confidence in the monarchy, with polls showing a significant minority of Swedes supporting application. Nevertheless, no direct legal actions were taken against the king, and the palace insists the payments were conducted without his approval. The episode remains a notable example of associations of a European monarch attempting to use substantial hush payments to suppress damaging revelations. Next up, a prince accused of running secret payouts, a hot-headed royal who paid after a brawl, and a princess forced into $1 million of silence. At number 9, we have Prince Albert II of Monaco's incident. Monaco's ruler has long been dogged by rumors of lawsuits regarding illegitimate children and extramarital extramarital affairs. In 2023, for instance, the principality's former accountant filed a legal complaint alleging that Prince Albert maintained a secret account at the French bank BNP to fund hidden operations. A detailed report in Yahoo News summarizing Palmero's claims states the account was used to pay allowances to Albert's mistresses and unacknowledged children. For example, one daughter allegedly received an annual allowance of $400,000 and the prince purchased a $3.5 million apartment for her. Palmero also described Mission K, a purported plot in which he was instructed to pay off women threatening to release compromising photographs of Albert. He says he refused to complete the payment and was dismissed. Another investigation reported by various news channels drew on a leaked black notebook kept by Monaco's head of home affairs. According to that source, Albert allocated $650,000 per year to special funds and secret missions, and including paying some important people and retrieving sensitive photos. The notebook also recorded funds to former mistresses and their children, indicating that hush money payments were routine. While Monaco's palace dismissed the allegations, the leaks prompted renewed scrutiny of the prince's finances and raised questions about governance in Europe's smallest monarchy. Next, we have Ernst August Prince of Hanover, Herzog zu Brunswick, on Lunenburg's incident. Known for his fiery temper and facing one of his most costly scandals in the late 1990s, forced to pay compensation after a brawl incident in Kenya, the prince, who had already built a reputation in Europe for public brawls, lashed out at a man during a stay at a coastal resort in Mombasa. Reports stated that Ernst physically manhandled the German club manager Josef Brunleiter, leaving the victim with injuries serious enough to bring the matter before court. The case became a major embarrassment, dragging the House of Hanover into international headlines for all the wrong reasons. Kenyan authorities pursued charges after the brawl, and although Ernst attempted to downplay the event as a misunderstanding, legal proceedings moved forward. Ultimately, to avoid a long, prolonged, and damaging trial, he was ordered to pay financial compensation to the victim. While the exact sum varies in press accounts, sources consistently describe the payout as significant, serving both as restitution for medical damages and as well as the settlement for a closed case. For a member of the European royal house, the spectacle of being fined abroad for bad behavior underscored how far his conduct had slipped from dynastic dignity. The incident left a lasting mark on his reputation. At number 7, we have Prince Haya bint Al Hussein, Jordan's incident. Princess Haya bint Al Hussein's divorce and ensuing legal battle with Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum drew intense public scrutiny, especially after court documents revealed that she allegedly paid millions to members of her own security staff to stave off blackmail demands. In 2021, in a London High Court judgment, it was stated that Haya withdrew approximately $9 million from her children's bank account and paid it to 4 security operatives who were named in court only as A, B, C, and D to forestall issues linked to an affair that she had with one of them. According to the judgment, Mr. B and Mr. C roughly $6 million had told her, Mr. A was $1.6 million, and Mr. D, who was the guard with whom she allegedly had the relationship, also received $1.6 million. The court described this as blackmail and accepted Haya's own testimony that she'd been very vulnerable and that the payments were made under duress to protect her privacy and safety. According to the Telegraph, the judge observed that the concerned parties had not given evidence, but noted that nobody should be blackmailed and that the episode was unsatisfactory. The use of the children's accounts were justified by Haya on the grounds of expediency and immediacy, and though the judge flagged it as suboptimal due to her access to other funds. Now we enter the vault. A king's severance to a fallen consort, billions moved in a tiny oil kingdom, and a historic scandal built on payoffs. Next, we have King Maha Vajiralongkorn Islands incident. He ascends to the Thai throne in late 2016 after the demise of his father, and since then, debates over the monarchy's finances, powers, and secrecy have intensified, you could say. One of the few documented financial transactions that resembles a payoff comes from his divorce, reunification with his third consort, Princess Rashmi Sawant. In December 2014, the government gazette announced that she relinquished royal status, and she reportedly received around $6 million US from the Crown Property Bureau, as confirmed by the Ministry of Finance. That transaction is often interpreted as a form of financial severance or compensation tied to her relinquished titles, possibly aimed at limiting further claims or expectations of royal privilege and release of any explicit materials. Beyond that, much of the scrutiny centers on his consolidation of royal wealth and institutional power. Upon becoming king, he absorbed control of the Crown Property Bureau, transferring vast assets from a semi-public institution to his own personal purview, effectively rendering formally public or quasi-public holdings opaque and under his direct control. According to the Los Angeles Times, protesters and critics have denounced this and institutional secrecy bolstered by law and royal immunity. Thailand also enforces some of its strictest laissez-faire laws in the world, which kind of protects anyone from criticizing the monarchy publicly. And despite the law, people criticize the law and push the monarchy to pay hush money to hide their faults. At number 5, we have Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah of Brunei's incident. Sultan Bolkiah, who's ruled Brunei since 1967, is one one of the world's wealthiest monarchs. His reign has featured significant controversies around financial transfers, the blurring of state and royal wealth, and the disputes with his brother Geoffrey. A central controversy is Amadeo's scandal. Prince Geoffrey, once head of Brunei's investment arm, was accused of massive misappropriation of funds, and a 2007 Privy Council ruling examined special transfers from BIA accounts between 1983 and 1998 of about 14.8 billion, reportedly all going to Geoffrey's accounts, and 3.8 billion US to government use. The rest remains unidentified. These transfers are often described in court and investigative documents as part of hush money to suppress scandal. The legal and financial wrangling is intense, which explicitly frames the Sultan paying someone to stay quiet. Some reports suggest that these special transfers were handled under royal discretion as part of broader financial arrangements within Brunei's investment agency. Over time, official reviews and agreements clarified the ownership and allocation of these funds. While certain details remain private, the episode is generally viewed as part of the complex financial restructuring, they would say, within the royal household rather than any external dispute. Next, we have King Gustav V of Sweden's incident, which is known as the Hajeby Affair. The Hajeby Affair is arguably among the strongest historic royal hush payment candidates. It involves the monarch, private payments tied to scandal threats, and surviving testimony of direct payouts. The affair concerns Kurt Hajeby, a Stockholm restaurateur who from the 1930s through the 1950s claimed that he had a relationship with King Gustav V of Sweden and later demanded compensation for silence. Under mounting pressure, the royal court, Swedish state, and actors and intermediaries engaged in various payments, legal actions, and covert maneuvers to contain the scandal. Kurt alleged that in return for his silence, he received monetary support from the court, e.g. a 1936 divorce settlement and 100 to his then wife to discourage her from naming King's involvement, which included royal monthly stipend and later funding for his business and immigration costs. Courts officially reportedly paid him approximately $20,000 in total a year to placate his claims and buy silence. The amounts and continuity imply a mitigation strategy, not a one-time gift, but sustained engagement to suppress disclosure. Court intermediate witnesses, for example, Dr. Eckert, Conrad Wenzel, testified about payments from royal or state coffers directly to Kurt or via proxies. In the 1950s, Kurt was convicted of blackmail in a trial viewed by many as politically influenced and sentenced to years of hard labor. The final stretch turns explosive. The Habsburg's insiders paid to keep quiet. The prince's letters bought out of sight, and Monaco's hush funds laid bare. At number 3, we have Countess Maria Lariche von Monarch of Austria's incident, the niece of Empress Elizabeth of Austria. She stands out in Habsburg's history as both family insider and a dangerous liability, especially after involvement in arranging meetings between Crown Prince Rudolf and Baroness Maria Vetsera, a liaison that culminated in the 1889 Mallering tragedy. In the years that followed, her status at court deteriorated. Her position as a relative with first-hand knowledge of scandalous events made her both a troublemaker. By the early 20th century, Marie sought to publish memoirs that would expose the private lives of the Habsburgs, challenging to reopen wounds and embarrass the imperial house. Historical accounts and Marie's own writings suggest that the imperial court attempted to silence her by offering explicit financial inducements, what has frequently been termed as hush money, to prevent publication. Biographical sources recorded that she was given support under a contractual agreement to exchange for her silence, an arrangement widely understood as the court paying her not to reveal sensitive information. Despite this, Marie ultimately published her book My Past in 1913, directly contravening the agreement and exposing court secrets, thereby demonstrating either that the payments had ceased or that she valued the publicity and royalties from the publication more than her obligations under the hush agreement. Next, we have King Edward VII of the United Kingdom's incident. Daisy Greville, Countess of Warwick, was a prominent mistress of Albert Edward, who later became King Edward VII during his years as Prince of Wales. After his death, she threatened to make public a cache of private letters that would have revealed his affair and undermined the monarchy's privacy. All to head off this threat, the British industrialist Arthur de Cross intervened, reportedly paying $85,000 at order debts in exchange for acquiring those letters, effectively acting as a proxy payer to suppress the scandal. The deal was framed not as a simple purchase, but as a quid pro quo. De Cross would absorb her liabilities in return for possession of her copies of the letters and an obligation not to publish. Because the letters were deemed to belong to the crown under copyright law, a high court injunction also barred her from publishing them in the UK, strengthening the suppression. The historical narrative around this transaction rests partly on secondary sources, memoirs, and social histories, which often describe the payment as a settlement to buy the letters or to suppress their potential damage to monarchy. Some historians interpret Cross's payments as a royal payment or negotiated purchase, which was directly tied to royal instruction. Moreover, that such a large sum, especially at the time, was used to neutralize Daisy's leverage underscores societal mechanism for silencing scandal via private transaction. And at number 1, we have Prince Albert II of Monaco's incident. This public narrative surrounding Prince Albert II and his relationship with Nicole Coste, mother of his son Alexander Maldi Coste, has long hovered between private arrangements and scandalous exposure. Coste, a former flight attendant from Togo, publicly claimed that Albert acknowledged paternity via a notarized certificate, lived partly in his Paris apartment under careful cover, and received an allowance while maintaining discretion by posing as a friend of his circle. These facts provide a foundation that Albert both recognized his child and accepted ongoing financial support. In a more recent Palmero notebook scandal, Claude Palmero, Albert's former trusted financial advisor, leaked detailed records of the royal family's finances, including payments linked Coste and Alexandra. According to Le Mans investigation, the notebooks documented Coste business ventures reportedly received funding from the prince, and that a $9 million London apartment was purchased under trust agreements to keep Albert's name out of the deed, ostensibly to protect the integrity of his marriage to Princess Charlene. Palmero also recorded quote-unquote excessive expenses for Coste and cautioned against revealing transactions that could expose the relationship. These entries suggest a pattern of discreet financial structuring in which expenditures are tied to Nicole and her child all were handled in secrecy, perhaps functioning as a hush money agreement. With this, we end today's video. We'll be back shortly with a new video. Until then, happy watching and do subscribe to our channel if you still haven't.